LED to IMT, Tim making the video for you guys. Today's video I'm going to be talking about creativity and what I think about it and how my creative process works. So this was meant to complement my game competition video. I meant to bring this up as a preface to explain why I thought the theme was a good theme. But there's too much I wanted to say, so I ended up expanding it to an entire video. So I make video games and I make a lot of tutorials as well, and I manage people who make video games and people who make tutorials come across the problem of where they don't know what to make next. I see people make videos all the time who make tutorials where they'll ask their subscribers, their audience, to tell them what they should make next because they can't think of anything else. People who make video games also hit some sort of writer's block, I guess. I think the problem is that they're going about it the wrong way. They're thinking, okay, I need to come up with a creative idea. There are all the possibilities in the world. I need to just find the right one and go through those options and find the right one. And then whenever they start settling on one, they think, or whenever they see an idea in front of them, or they'll think I have all the possibilities in the world. I shouldn't need to settle on this. I know this one better than this. So they end up not settling on one. So they're not going about the right way. An example I'd like to use as someone who did go about the right way is a guy named Venbruxes. He's named 2D Cube on Yo-Yo Games. His games are quite popular on Yo-Yo Games. He's pretty well known. You might have heard of him. So many years ago, he was learning Japanese. And a word he learned, or a concept he learned, was Karoshi. It's a concept in Japan, and the word means work to death, because in Japan a lot of people work, get overworked from working too many hours and that kind of stuff, and almost to the point of suicide. So a lot of people would have learned that word and then just moved on. Like people I was describing earlier, they would have just heard that word and not thought about how they can use it in terms of a game or whatever they're making. They just moved on. So, I guess Venbruxes, he thought, okay, how can I make a game out of this? So he made a game, Karoshi, where the object of the game was to kill yourself, which at first the levels were just like normal platformer levels, where instead of like coming to a flagpole at the end or something like that, you come to a spike and that's how you kill yourself. But many levels are very creative. You need to find ways to get blocks that fall on top of you, or you need to, I remember there's one level where you need to electrocute yourself, and it was a very creative game. So the problem, I think, is people need to get away from the idea of there are infinite possibilities and I just need to find the right one. They need to think of it as, yes, there are infinite possibilities, but they're all right in front of us and you just need to be open to them. And that's how you find them, and just sort of always be observant for them, I guess. So this may sound like I just contradict myself, but I mean this quite literally. Like even in my vicinity right now, I can find something that I can make a decent game out of it. So like here I have chapstick. Pretty standard chapstick. How can I make a game out of this? So let's see. I could be a little unoriginal and make a standard platform out of it, so I could just have it be like this and sort of move around like that. But let's see, what else is specific to chapstick that I can use? Let's see, it's cylindrically shaped, so I can roll it around like that. Maybe I can use it as a game mechanic. Maybe you can turn it to like maybe twist pieces in a puzzle, or turn cogs or something like that. I don't know. Let's see, what else can we do? Let's see, it's full of petroleum jelly. What can we do with that? So maybe you can rub it around and it's slippery or something like that, and it can use this game mechanic to make enemies slip. What else? Let's see. It's also flammable, so it can be rubbed on a wall or something like that, and maybe you can use it to take out obstacles, or as a trap to kill enemies and to make it ignite. And let's see, it'll also run out of petroleum jelly eventually, so that's also a game mechanic. Make sure you don't run out and conserve it, and maybe you can find more at that level. So I'd say that's a pretty decent game, and definitely original. That just made out something simple. So the idea is that by limiting your options, you're actually forcing yourself to come up with a more creative idea. Don't think of it in terms of having infinite possibilities and I just need to find the right one. Because, for one thing, your brain can't handle that much information. Your brain can't fathom the amount of options you have. And then, because you can't fathom it, you'll sort of waver towards more generic options, like things that have already been created. And then your brain will waver to stuff you already know about, rather than think of new things. So by limiting yourself to a specific option, you're actually forcing yourself to be more creative with it. This is why competitions always have themes, or almost always have themes, because by giving them something to jog their mind, they're able to come up with more creative responses. And this is also why I decided to make this video, because with my competition, I made it like a really abstract theme that you really wouldn't think you could make a game out of it. So that's why I felt like I should explain myself in this video, and then expand it too much. So that's why it's a separate video rather than in that video. So to further illustrate this concept of limiting your options, there's a test that's done in schools oftentimes, but it's on divergent thinking or creativity in general, where the teacher will say, here's a paperclip. How many different uses can you think of for the paperclip? And most people aren't really good at it because they're not used to this. Isn't taught very much often in schools. I think most people can find like 10 or 15. And you start thinking really creatively about it, and there are hundreds of possibilities. Like people have tallied up answers from a bunch of people, and they've come up with like hundreds or even thousands of answers. It's pretty impressive. So it's pretty good exercise in creative thinking to go around and look at random objects and think of not necessarily how you can use it in a game, but how you can use it for another purpose than it's originally designed. And you have to think of creative solutions for that. That's a good exercise. Like I'll go around campus and thinking about like random things and think about how I could use that in a game, make a game mechanic out of it. One time I was in calculus 2 and we learned about polar graphs and the designs it made when you use trigonometric functions. And it sometimes make cool flower patterns, or they always have weird curves that look really weird to the average person. So I was sort of thinking how I could make maybe FL Studio music visualization program where maybe the different curves could represent different notes or something like that, and you come up with really neat animations. And well, because it's a function, you can map a path to it basically, and so it would be kind of cool if enemies could follow those kind of weird paths. Like you've seen games where you go through these levels and there are enemies that are bouncing up and down the rooms or left and right. Well, wouldn't it be much cooler if they had followed that kind of a weird path, which didn't look quite random but had some sort of pattern to it? So I thought that would be really cool. And for my angle shooter game, I started off by taking a rectangle. So I was thinking, okay, pretty basic form of rectangle, how can it shoot at things? So it can shoot at things long ways, but the thing is, if it does that, it's a very big target because it's exposing itself to the enemy. So the player has to decide whether it wants to dodge bullets and go flat like that, or shoot at enemies and go perpendicular to the enemy and shoot at it even though it's a bigger target. So I'm not sure how well I managed to implement that in the end, but I'm happy with that the way I started it, and I'm very happy with how the game turned out in the end. If you look at video games that sort of revolutionized the market, you'll find that many of them actually started in this way with that type of thinking. There's a Russian guy named Alexei Pajitnov, and he was I think he was a mathematician or something like that, or a computer scientist, and he enjoyed mathematical puzzles and that kind of things. Well, one of the favorite puzzles was a game called Pentamino, which is where it was an old Roman puzzle, and it was involved of several pieces made up of 5 blocks, and it had every possible shape made out of 5 blocks. And you need to arrange those pieces into a rectangle. So I think he was giving a demonstration for his job or something like that. So he made a game similar to Pentamino, and it was where these blocks with these shapes with 4 blocks each would fall from the sky, and you have to get them into the correct forms. Well, that game was Tetris, and so Alexei Pajitnov was the creator of Tetris, and that's how it started. And from there, it built up into one of the most well-known games to date. So that's really cool. Another slightly more well-known person is Shigeru Miyamoto. He was thinking of game. He was one of the pioneers in implementing story to a game, and he was thinking of creating an experience for the player. And what he was thinking was, okay, so the character in the game starts with absolutely nothing, an empty field, and an open world to explore. And that was basically how he started out. And it didn't have to be very complicated. Like the world didn't have to be too complicated, but just the fact that the characters were able to, the player was able to explore the world and develop its character, and to notice that enemies in the game maybe they become easier to beat as time goes on because they're getting stronger. That developed an emotional connection between the player and the character, which was very new to video games. So that video game was Legend of Zelda, which was one of the which really revolutionized the RPG games, or actually it might have even been the first RPG game. It was a very neat game. So this is most of what I wanted to talk about for the tutorial. But before I end it, I want to talk about one more misconception that I think a lot of people have, and I wanted to sort of to talk about. So I think originality and creativity is very important in a video game. I feel like if you make a video game and you're not experimenting with new things and trying out new things that haven't done before, you're just remaking what's been done in the past, and you're not really progressing, and you're not it really, I feel like it really takes a lot away from what's fun about game development. But I do want to make clear that it's not the most important thing. It's not the hardest part in making a video game. So the misconception is that the key to making a game is finding a good creative idea and then making it, which is not true. The hardest part is the making of it. Once you understand the concept of making creative games, it's not even that hard to find creative ideas. So the hardest part is definitely in making the games and going through all the bug fixes. So a good quote I found that I think illustrates this idea is from David Crane. He was one of the people worked with the original team of Atari, and he eventually split off and created Activision. So he's a pretty big name, and he's made some very big games in the past. This particular game that I talk about is Pitfall. It was the original platformer game. David Crane was the inventor of the platformer genre. And that's very cool. Here's his quote of how he started it. He said, "I sat down with a blank sheet of paper and drew a stick figure in the center." Alright, simple enough. I said, "Okay, I have a little running man. Let's put it on a path." He drew 2 more lines to make the path. "So where is this path? Let's put it in a jungle." He drew some trees. "Why is he running? Draw treasures to collect, enemies to avoid," and that kind of stuff. And thus Pitfall was born. That's how he started. And that's could be the end of the quote right there, but he said something else which I think is interesting. He said, "Okay, this entire process took about 10 minutes. So not hard at all. Not very much effort on his part. About 1,000 hours of programming later, the game was complete." So it took him a lot of persistence and dedication to actually finish the game. It wasn't the creative idea that made it. It was his persistence. This is why I always recommend people to start small. The game I mentioned earlier, made by Venbruxes, that one, like, the creativity was the driving force in the game. That was a very simple platformer game, which if you know how to make a platformer game, I have tutorials about how to make a platformer game like that, then you can make the game, no problem. So, and this is why I recommend people to start small, because if they get a big creative idea and they try and make it and it's too big for them, then they're just going to get discouraged and they're going to quit. I'd say that the majority of games that get started don't get finished because they just don't have the amount of persistence to finish, to follow through and finish the game. So a good game designer needs to be both a creative person and they have to have a lot of perseverance. So that's the end of my video. I hope you guys found it interesting, and maybe it'll change your ideas on how games are made later on. So as I said in the beginning, I have a competition, a video game competition. If you're interested in entering or just want to hear about it, I have a link in the description of that video. And other than that, please leave a comment. I'm always interested to hear what you think. Even if it's bad, I want to hear what you think so I can improve. And you know, and if you liked it, please like the video and subscribe. It really helps me out, and I really appreciate it. So other than that, thank you again for watching. I'll see you guys next time.